Now in today's video I'm going to try to share some useful information regarding tape that you would use to do a custom motorcycle paint job. Now anytime you lay out a custom paint job, laying it out of course is one job, but then picking the right tape to do the job, it's an important thing. And a lot of people, there may be some information on here that they don't know or that they would like to improve their taping skills. This video is about masking tape. Now I like to start any custom paint job with some sketches and color them in with paint or colored pens, whatever. But I always want to have concept sketches to start with. That's a good way to start any custom paint job. And no matter what paint job, whether it's simple or complex, laying it out ahead of time in tape and knowing what tape to use. There are several different kinds, and some of the tricks you can use to get it off without pulling up paint. We're going to try to share some of that information again on this video. So if you figured out, and I want to start this at the beginning of how I used to do this, building model airplanes or doing anything custom painting, these are the old masking tapes by 3M. Some of these are 100 years old already. And rule one of all tape, as tape gets older, it gets stickier. So the worst possible thing you can do is have fresh paint that you've just put on, and then very sticky tape, and then pull it up fast. The trick is buy new tape. If you have a job that you value, buy new tape. Now some of this tape is probably 10, 15 years old, and you can see it even comes up like that. That's rule one of tape. Don't try to use up old tape on good jobs that you really treasure. I wanted to show this for a reason. This is really the basics, and this video is made to share useful information, something that you can use right away. It's not meant to be a pretty video. We'll do some storyboards, but I wanted to show how this old tape, and a lot of people attempted to just use up old tape. Oh, I already paid for it. It's already in my shop. I have this old tape, and that's what always happens. So that's rule one. Now, in the very beginning of doing custom painting, this was all you had, really. You didn't have a lot of other choices. So the way we would use it, put this down on a cutting pad, and I'm just doing this as a demo. We don't do this anymore, but this is how it started. You'd measure off accurately with a ruler and a pen, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, or whatever. Take a razor blade, and that was how you made the tape for all the early years in the 60s and 70s when I was painting custom things, motorcycles, guitars, model airplanes. You had to make your own tape. And the problem with the tape was very sticky, so you always seem to paint yourself into a corner and have problems lifting up the tape. The trick was at the time, use a hairdryer, warm it. Yeah, that made it better. And the worst thing of all is to take tape, put it on a surface, and go put it in a cold garage overnight. That almost guarantees you're going to have some problem lifting paint. So that's basically some good information, and that's where I wanted to start the conversation today. All this video is trying to do is pass on useful information, something you can use if you're new to doing custom painting on anything. Model airplanes, guitars, boats, it doesn't matter. Motorcycles is do a sketch first, get some idea what you want to do, and use fresh tape. Now all of the lettering that was done on these model planes years ago, and this is back in the back in the day, a lot of that tape had to be custom cut, and then we finally got into having fine line tape. Wow. Now 3M, Scotch, a lot of different companies make different, besides the big brands, there's always the brands, what I call the off brands. You never heard of the Pride of the West Tape Company or something. All these are big brand, big name brand. Now, this is for doing striping like here, but the first thing to understand, first basic rule, this is tape that's a couple of years old, 5 years old, and it's fine line tape. It's not the tape that's made out of paper like we call masking tape. This is called fine line tape. Now what fine line tape is really great at doing, if I can get this started here, what it leaves when I lay out this stripe, what it gives me, and I press this down with my fingernail, Right there, that's a razor edge. It's going to be beautiful. If I use ordinary masking tape to do that same line, that edge is... Now, back in the days of doing model airplanes, when we only had masking tape, what you would do is seal this edge with a little bit of clear on a little tiny paintbrush and just or an airbrush, so that would make a better edge. But now you have, and it's all thicknesses, all widths. So a couple of tips. Buy big name brand, Scotch 3M. That's a big name brand. That's going to be good quality. When you're going to start a project, if you're going to do like I do, you paint in the winter, you don't buy the tape in the summer. Buy it at a body shop or someplace where they have a quick turnover of material. If you buy it off the internet, yeah, you'll save a few dollars, but maybe it's been sitting in somebody's garage or something for 10 years. There's no sell-by date on this, but you can tell, anybody that uses tape all the time, you can tell just by the stickiness how old it is. So the next part of this is, you're going to want razor crisp lines like that to do all your paint work on, and you're going to want to have, when you pull it up, not pull the paint up. That's a good choice. It's called fine line tape. Several companies make it, but as long as it's a big name brand, and I think if you buy it from a body shop supply, that you know they have a quick turnover. So it's just like buying a quart of milk. You don't buy a quart of milk from somebody that sells 1 quart of milk a month. I want to buy it from a body shop that sells a lot of stuff. And it's expensive. Tape has gotten really expensive over the years. So I buy it just before I need it and don't waste it. And a good idea, a really good idea, now in this case, I took this out already. If I'm going to leave this out, and if I'm going to use this now on older jobs, something that it's really not going to matter, I'll put this in, while I'm storing it, put it in a sandwich bag and seal it and keep it out of really cold or really hot. Just leave it at ambient temperature that the house would be in a sealed plastic bag. Good storage. Another thing, as I said before, it's always a good idea. Buy it from a body shop. Leave it in a sealed package right up to the minute you use it. Don't buy it a year ahead of time. This is stuff I'm going to be using on the next restoration project. And I've got some of every thickness. I don't know which one I'm going to use next. And if I have some older rolls, I'll use this up on something else other than my #1 primary thing that I'm going to be doing on a restoration job. Now this is a Motor Guzzi tank that we're going to be refinishing as one of our future projects. We have it in the shop. We've had it in the shop for a while. We've used it to do buffing tests. I wanted to show one of the things that if you're new, this may be something that would be a very good information, and it's always good to have fingernails. This is a version of fine line tape. It comes in green, Kawasaki green. It comes in what looks like clear, various colors, but if it's 3M and it's called fine line, this is exactly what it's good for. I lay out a stripe just like that. That edge, when I press it down with my fingernail, that's going to give me a really nice paint edge. A couple of things that people always ask. They're going to put the back masking here, spray this. How long do you wait to pull a tape up? Well, I have my own way of doing it. I let it sit overnight because I'm usually painting when it's really, really cold outside. But when I pull it up, I'm going to pull it up slow, pull it back, and with a hairdryer warming it up to minimize the chance I'm going to pull something up. Now, the fine line tape has a limitation, and here's the limitation. If I want to mask off a certain shape or size, and I want to have very sharp curves in it, what can tend to happen is on the inside of the curve, it won't lay down nice and flat. And you can keep pressing it down with your fingernail, and there's a lot of other things you can do. But sometimes what'll make this a little bit better is just warm up the part with a little hairdryer, warm up the tape a little bit. Again, cold tape gets very sticky. So having that on the part, and then the real trick is press it down with your fingernail, clean it, and paint. Don't let it sit there and paint it the next day. The sooner you can get your paint on there, and in my case, I think you could take it off after an hour or so, and I've heard arguments from people that really do know. Everybody's got their own opinion. It's like making a pizza. So that's a trick. It's on the inside corner that you'll have a problem. So what a lot of people do, and this is not high-tech stuff, But if I wanted to make that curve a little bit sharper, I'll just show what happens. We can use this as a good example. If I have that and I want to make a really, really sharp 90-degree bend, let me see if I can do that. Well, let me show this with the macro lens because that's what tends to happen on a sharp curve. I think you can see right there, you see how it doesn't want to sit down no matter how much you press it. And if you press it and do get it down, well, then you got an even worse problem. It's going to pop up just before the paint hits. So this is the limitation on fine line tape. And to be honest, ordinary masking tape, when you cut it 1/8 inch, does a little bit better job of bending. This doesn't do a good job on real sharp edges like that. But there's a solution. And the solution is you take that shape and cut it out of a solid piece of tape, and then you can make it as sharp as you want. So if in my ultimate design I want to have something with a really tight radius, it would be better to lay it out in big tape like that. That would make a much better radius. And if you have two corners that are coming together, just make sure, if you wanted to make a 90-degree corner, 80-degree, whatever, and you just want that where the two tapes come together, and you really want to be good about it, and you want to make it perfect, you slit the tape. I'm going to be real careful on both sides. Press it down with your fingernail. A lot of these tricks are on our 3,000 plus videos that are out on the channel, but I thought I'd condense all this basic stuff into one tape. Now I've got no gap where the paint can get up underneath, and this is what will make a perfect edge. Put the second layer of tape on, press it down with your fingernail, paint away. That is a great tip. Now, one of the things I try to avoid like the plague is super sticky tape. Now, this is something I learned the hard way. This is tape that normally you'd buy in an auto body shop, and you'd put a stripe down your car or around the door. And I know people that when we were building model planes on a regular basis in the shop had masked off a model plane with this. And the problem is this is what they call one-time stick. It sticks one time, really grippy, and then the second time you lay it down, but it's really sticky the first time, especially if it's not brand new. So this is all striping tape to do like custom, I don't know, custom cars or whatever. I still have this in my inventory, but this is something I would not use if I were masking off a custom paint job, ever. Now this is a really good tip, and you would think it's not this simple, but it is. I'm just going to make a pretend gas tank, and I want this gas tank to have a stripe down the middle, a small stripe, and I want to just use this. This is called a storyboard. I use it in all my tutorials. And let's say I want to know how to paint this, and let's say this is, I'm just going to make an example up, red, the stripe is white, and this is blue. Well, common paint job. Well, how do you backmask this? What part do you backmask first? In other words, do you backmask paint blue? Do you backmask the red? How do you backmask this? Now, there's a simple rule. You do the smallest area, that whatever this is going to be white. So what I do is I'd paint the whole tank white and mask off this stripe. The smallest area, that's how you decide. You also take into consideration, if you have something painted red and you go to paint it white, you need 100 coats of white to get it to cover. So if you're having a white stripe around things, and most of my paint jobs I design around the idea that the white is going to be an accent stripe, so I start by painting everything white. Just paint the whole tank white. Now I can lay out the tape, and if I wanted to have a design up here, I'm just going to make a pretend up or a design here. Oh, it's no problem. But now all I have to do is backmask this part. This is a tank I did for Luciano for one of his RDs, but everything got painted white first. White first, and that's the whole secret to making the backmasking a minimum. When you have, if you were to paint the white last on this, you would wind up using so much tin foil or newspaper or whatever you were backmasking with. Always the smallest color first. That's the, as far as I can tell, that's the best way I've ever seen to do it. And I backmask this with tin foil, paint that red, move the tin foil up here, since the tape is the white is never going to change, paint that blue. And then when I'm all done, if this is just an accent stripe, all I have to do is pull up one piece of tape on each side, and I've got a red, white, and blue with a minimum amount of backmasking. Because if you were to paint the whole thing red and then paint the blue and then try to put the white stripe in, you've got 3-4 times the amount of backmasking. So it's always the smallest color first. And if white is one of the colors, it's a good idea to make white the first color, because everything will go over to white, but white really doesn't like going over red, and a lot of times you put the clear on and it'll just start to turn pink. That's a good tip. Now, if you search the channel during the FZR 900-hour restoration, I laid out this tape so many times, and it was below freezing. I had painted everything white, but everything that you see, the blue tape, became white in the final paint job. It's quite an involved thing. It was a 900-hour restoration, but the final result is a one-of-a-kind. Absolutely nobody's going to copy that paint job. So, some other information about tape. This is ordinary masking tape. It comes in various stickinesses. This is the original. I find that to be the most useful, but here's what happens. This is useful for a lot of things, backmasking. But here's one of the things, if you really want to ensure that you're not going to have a problem. I take this tape, I'm going to use it for backmasking or whatever. I'll take a clean t-shirt, press it on my t-shirt, peel it up, make sure I haven't picked up any fuzz along the edge. And now when I put that down, it's not going to have a tendency to rip everything apart. Just once on a clean t-shirt, boy, that can really save you bacon, especially if the conditions you're painting in are cold. Now, a lot of these things, if you're painting when it's 80 degrees out, or you're in California or Florida, this probably doesn't apply. But my house, it's about 65 in the shop, and outside, it's always a lot colder. So just some random thoughts at the end here before we end the video. The things to get from this video are basic 101 painting things. To always use new tape on your projects. Warm the tape with a hairdryer if you're in a cold environment like I usually am. Remove the tape slowly, peel it straight back. And by the way, to see any of these things in real time, just look up on my channel, search the channel for the word painting, Paintwork. If you have a chance, lay out your storyboard and paint the white first. That is always a great trick. Use concept sketches to your advantage. Always a good idea to lay this out. Now, John Pothia when we did the FZR, he took the FZR and somehow photoshopped it up that it was just a black and white outline, and I made many concept sketches, and we did the 650 that way too. But anyway, and a trick, the best tip of all, if you're having trouble pulling paint, rub that tape on your shirt one time, and I hope when you go to do your project, this information will help you be way more successful. So if you're new to the channel, and this is the first time you've watched a Windy video, we try to share the information and the passion we have for custom and old and new motorcycles. Actually, we love them all. I have never seen a motorcycle I don't wish I had in my collection, if I was Jay Leno. Anyway, we try to share the information, painting the wheels. A lot of good information if you want to paint a set of wheels. You want to lay out a custom paint job like this, there's a lot of information. You just have to search the channel with the correct topic, try a different couple of wordings. The videos come up automatically. There's over 3,000 of them now. And there's even the model airplane channels, and there's 3 model airplane channels that have my videos on them. You just got to search around and you'll pretty much find everything you can possibly want. I have a very humble motorcycle collection, one bike from every 10-year period for 70 years. That I'm old, and some of the bikes I wish I had. Some of the bikes I never got to have when they were new, but I've got them now. Anyway, but it's all fun. It's all low-key, and the object of everything we do is at the end of it, we have this collection of bikes to ride, and we want to ride the wheels off them. If we couldn't ride the bikes, there wouldn't be much purpose in even working on them. So I hope you did enjoy the video. And thanks guys so much for watching.